Hello, good morning and welcome to Appreciating Literature. Today we are going to see a one-act play. The playwright or the author is W. Jacobs, and it is a very famous short story made into a one-act play. Originally it was a short story, but you find it is a classical story. It has elements of horror, suspense, mystery, and it is definitely a very interesting story which we are going to see. The one act play is titled The Monkey's Paw. So first let us introduce the characters. Mainly we have got a family, the Whites. We have got Mr. and Mrs. White and their son. His name is Herbert. He is around 19 years old. And we have a Sergeant Major Morris, a tall, heavy man with a ruddy complexion, who served with the British Army in India for 21 years. So another character is an army officer. His name is Morris. Ruddy complexion means red color. He is very rosy color. And we have a stranger. These are the main characters. And the setting is the White family's home in a new developed English suburb around 1920. Suburb means the outskirts of the city or town. So the first scene, a dark and stormy winter night. So we have got a rain in the winter. The sound of heavy rain can be heard and an occasional thunderclap. So just like we are having rain and occasional thunder. The White's living room is cozy and bright. Cozy means comfortable. Mr. White and Herbert play chess. So the father and son, they are playing chess. While the mother, Mrs. White, knits by the fire. She is stitching. Herbert is winning. So while they are playing the chess, you find the son is winning. Herbert: not looking too good for you, is it, Dad? So he is actually asking his father that he is not actually playing well. Mr. White: could you please be quiet? I am trying to concentrate. So the father is very annoyed, angry with that question because he is not winning, he is rather losing. He pauses another moment, then makes a move. Move here means on the chessboard. Listen to that wind howling out there. So he is mentioning about the strong wind outside. Herbert, keeping his attention on the chessboard. I hear it. Yes, he is able to hear the sound outside. Mr. White, he won't show up in a storm like this, I bet. So they are referring to someone who was supposed to come and visit them. So Mr. White is not very sure about his arrival or his coming. Herbert, maybe not. He moves, check. So he is giving a check to his father. Checkmate. Mr. White reaches for a chess piece. Herbert, triumphant. Mate. Here it means checkmate. So triumphant means he is winning. He understood that he has defeated his father. Mr. White pulls his hand back. So he understood he has lost. Mr. White angrily. That's what I can't stand about living out in the middle of nowhere like this. Every time it rains, the road gets flooded and no one can get out here. And what do these politicians in town do about it? Nothing. I suppose our 3 votes just don't count. So after losing the game, he is just blaming everybody. He is upset about the location of their house, and nobody is visiting them and all that. Especially when it is raining, the roads are flooded, and the politicians are not doing anything, so he is blaming everybody. Mrs. White soothingly, that means trying to cool him down. Never mind, dear, maybe you will win the next time. So you lost it now, maybe next time you can try to win the game. Mr. White looks up sharply and sees Mrs. White and Herbert smiling at him in amusement. So when Mr. White was looking at them very sharply, kind of in anger, they both were smiling at him, the mother and son. His annoyance fades, so his anger is slowly fading. He is becoming normal, and he smiles guiltily. So he has got that guilt feeling because he was upset after his loss. A gate bangs and heavy footsteps are heard approaching the door. So suddenly they hear opening of the gate, and somebody is advancing towards the home. Herbert, sounds like he made it after all. So he is telling, it looks like the person who promised to come has reached. Mr. White goes to the door and greets Sergeant Major Morris, who comes in and begins wiping his feet, shaking out his umbrella, etc. So the person who they were waiting was this person who is the army, who was the army officer. His name is Morris. Mr. White introducing them, Sergeant Major Morris, my wife, and this is our son Herbert. So Mr. White is introducing the family to Mr. Morris. They shake hands, and the three older people sit down while Herbert goes to fix tea. So their son is going to make tea. Mr. White, glad you made it. We didn't know if you would come out in this storm. So Mr. White is expressing their happiness that he has reached, and he is telling there's a big storm out there and all that. Morris, storm? This little shower? Chuckles. You wouldn't think much of this if you had ever been holed up in Bombay during the monsoon season. Now there are some storms, let me tell you. So he is telling that this is not a storm at all, it is a light shower compared to the heavy rain that he used to experience when he was in India, in Bombay. So he is telling that it is nothing compared to that heavy rain day. Mrs. White, did you live in India a long time, Sergeant Major? So the mother or the wife of Mr. White, she is asking whether he had been there in India for a long time. Mr. White, 21 years he has been gone. So Mr. White is telling he has been there for 21 years in India. When he joined up with the army, he wasn't a day older than Herbert there, and neither was I, for that matter. We started out in the warehouse together. So both of them had been there in the army in India. Both of them were, friends. So they joined the army while they were very young, as old as Herbert, that means around 19 years. Morris, well, time flies, time flies. So how fast time has gone. Herbert, bringing the tea. I would like to go to India, see the old temples, maybe catch one of those holy men performing miracles. So the son is very curious about visiting India and seeing the places, old temples and all that. He also must have heard about the sannyasis, the holy men of Hindu sannyasis, that is. Morris, shaking his head and sighing. You are better off here. So Morris is not actually interested in sending anybody to India. Herbert, but you must have all kinds of great stories to tell. The places you saw, the people you met. So the son is very curious about hearing the stories about India and all that. Mr. White, does he ever? That means yes, he always tells stories. What are the story you started telling me the other day, Morris, about a monkey's paw or something? So last time when he came visiting, he must have mentioned about a monkey's paw. So he is asking about that, Morris, quickly. Nothing really, nothing worth hearing. So he is not actually interested in telling that story of the monkey's paw. Mrs. White, a monkey's paw? So she has never heard about it. Morris, well, it's just a bit of what you might call magic, I guess. So he's telling this monkey's paw has got some magical power and all that. Herbert, magic. So the son is very interested in magic and all that. The Whites look at Morris with interest. So they are very curious about hearing about magic and all that. Morris fumbling in his pocket. So he is searching for something in the pocket. It looks like just an ordinary little paw all dried up. So he is talking about the monkey's paw. He pulls a mummified monkey's paw out of his pocket and holds it out. So mummified here means, mummies were kept in the pyramids. So they are preserved. So even if the body is dry like that, it will not decay. So this monkey's paw is like that, mummified, dried out. Mrs. White draws back in horror, but Herbert takes the paw and looks at it curiously. So Mrs. White is really shocked to see that, while Herbert is very much interested in looking at it and having a close look at that. Mr. White, so what is so special about it? He takes the paw from Herbert and examines it, then puts it down on the table. So Mr. White is also curious and he wants to know what is special about this monkey's paw. So he also looks at it very closely. More solemnly means seriously. It had a spell put on it by an old holy man. Spell means magical power, Mandriya Shakti. He wanted to show that fate ruled people's lives and that anyone who tried to interfere with the fate would be sorry. So this particular old holy man who gave some magical power to this monkey's paw wanted to teach people that if you try to interfere with fate, if you try to change fate, you will have to face the consequence and you will be sorry for it. He put a magic spell on the paw so that 3 people could each have 3 wishes from it. So this is the magical power of that monkey's paw. That means 3 people can have 3 wishes and whatever you wish, those 3 wishes will be granted. So that is the special power of this monkey's paw. Mr. White laughs uneasily. He is not very sure about it, or he may be afraid of the consequence. Herbert, well, why don't you wish on it then? So the son is very much interested in trying to prove the magical power of that monkey's paw. Morris, sadly, I have. That means he has already experimented that. He tried to wish. Mrs. White, and did you really have your 3 wishes granted? So she is also curious to know whether the monkey's paw really worked or it has any magical power or not. Morris, I did. Yes, that means he has already wished for 3 things and he has already got it. Mrs. White, And has anyone else wished on it? Morris, seriously. The first owner had 3 wishes. Yes. I don't know what the first 2 were for, but the third was for death. So the first owner had all the 3 wishes, and he is not sure what he wished for the first 2 times, and the third time what he wished was for death. That's how I got the paw. So since the first owner wished for death and he died, so now Mr. Morris is having that monkey's paw. Mr. White, after a pause. If you had your 3 wishes, that thing is no good to you now, then Morris, what do you keep it for? So one person can have only 3 wishes, and Mr. Morris has already got the 3 wishes, so it is now used to him. Only others can use that now. Morris, shaking his head and shrugging. That means he is rather negative about wishing or by using the magical power. No good reason, I guess. I did have some idea of selling it, but I don't think I will. So maybe first he thought of selling it to somebody, but now he changed his mind. It has caused enough trouble already. So because of that, people have already got a lot of trouble. That's why he doesn't want to sell it to anybody. Besides, no one will buy it. Some people think it is just a fairy tale, and the ones who do think anything of it want to try it first and pay me afterwards. So most people don't believe in this magical power of this this monkey's paw, and those who believe, they themselves will try to prove the magical power first. Only then they will pay for it. Herbert, if you could have another 3 wishes, would you use them? So he is asking Mr. Morris whether he would use the magical powers if you could have one more time, which is actually not possible. Morris, I don't know. So he is not sure. He takes the paw, dangles it between his finger and thumb, then suddenly throws it into the fire. So very unexpectedly he is tossing it into the fire to destroy it. Mr. White, hey! He jumps up and grabs the paw out of the fire before it starts to burn. So here you find Mr. White is trying to get back that monkey's paw which was thrown into the fire. Morris, solemnly, seriously, better let it burn. So he is telling better that you burn it. It's not good that you get it back. Mr. White, if you don't want it, Morris, give it to me. Morris, stubbornly. Stubbornly means very strongly. I won't. I threw it on the fire. If you keep it, don't blame me for what happens. If you are smart, you will throw it back in the fire. So Morris is actually very scared, apprehensive about keeping that monkey's paw, because he fears that something bad will happen. That's why if you keep it, whatever happens, the consequence you will have to face. So if you are very smart, you better destroy it, don't keep it. That's what Morris is telling Mr. White. Mr. White, shaking his head and looking closely at the paw. How do you do it? So he wants to try. He is asking, how do you wish? Morris, hold it in your right hand and wish out loud. So just hold that monkey's paw in your right hand and then speak out your wish loudly. But I am warning you, you won't like the consequences. So whatever you wish, the consequences of that you will have to face. Maybe you won't like it. Mrs. White, sounds like the Arabian Nights. So Arabian Nights is a beautiful story of magic. So if you have not read the story, I suggest that you read that. The title of the story is 1000 Nights and a Night. So wonderful fairy tale, very much interesting. So why don't you wish for a few extra pairs of hands for me? So Mrs. White, of course, the mother is always working in the kitchen, so she wants to have extra pairs of hands to work. She gets up to set the table for supper. Mr. White starts to raise his arm, and Morris, alarmed, jumps forward to stop him. The three Whites laugh. So it's time for supper. So Mrs. White is going to get the table ready, and Mr. White was about to raise his arm and wish. You find Morris is shocked and try to stop him. Morris, if you must wish, for heaven's sake, wish for something sensible, but I don't want to be here to see it. So again Morris is warning him, if at all you wish something very sensible, but I am not here, I will not be here to see the result of that or the consequence of that. So here again it shows that he is really afraid of the consequence. The four sit down and eat supper. So they are having the dinner. The monkeys were forgotten for the moment. The Whites listen eagerly to more of Morris' adventures. So as they are having the supper, you find the army officer is narrating his stories, his experience and all that in India. After supper, Morris rises, gets up. Mr. White accompanies him to the door and they say their goodbyes. So Mr. Morris is leaving, saying goodbye. Mr. White returns to the fireside and sits down. So in Western countries and all that, especially when it is cold, they have a fireplace. So they are sitting by the fire. Herbert. Well, Morris is quite a storyteller. For a minute there, he almost had me believing that one about the monkey's paw. So here Herbert is telling about Morris and his ability to tell stories and all that. And now he is also not very sure about the magical power of the monkey's paw. He is telling he must have told another story about monkey's paw. Actually it is not real. Mrs. White, did he give that disgusting thing back to him? So she is referring to that monkey's paw. Disgusting means that scary thing. Disgusting in Malayalam is a veruppulavakkunna. Mr. White, I tried to, but he wouldn't take it, and he told me again to get rid of it. So the monkey's paw is still with them. Mr. White, Morris has not taken it back. Herbert, in mock horror. Mock horror means just acting as if he is shocked, not real, not genuine horror. Get rid of it and give up our chance to be rich and famous and happy. So he doesn't want to get rid of it, throw it. He wants to keep it, and according to him, if he makes three wishes, or if he has the magical power, definitely it has a chance to become rich and famous and happy. So wish to be an emperor, Dad, to start off with, then mom can't boss you around. So he is suggesting his father to wish to become an emperor, so that the mother will not be able to control him like that. Mrs. White, thanks a lot. So he is thanking the son for that suggestion. Mr. White, taking the paw from his pocket and looking at it doubtfully. So Mr. White is having that monkey's paw in his pocket. So now he is taking it out. I don't know what to wish for, and that's a fact. So he is not sure what is that he has to wish for. Looking fondly at his wife and son, it seems to me I got all I want already. So this shows that the Whites, the family is happy and they have got enough to survive. So there is nothing more that he wants to wish for. But Herbert, you would like to pay off the mortgage, though, wouldn't you? So here Herbert, the son, is actually showing his greed. Mortgage means actually taking a loan out of the land. ബാങ്കിലൊക്കെ സ്ഥലം ഭൂപണയം വെക്കുക എന്ന് പറയില്ലേ, ഭൂമി വെച്ചിട്ട് ലോൺ എടുക്കുന്നതിനാണ് മോർഗേജ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. So he would like to pay off that loan. Well, wish for 200 pounds then, that will do it. So that loan amount must be 200 pounds. So that's why he is asking the father to wish for 200 pounds. Mr. White, this is ridiculous. Smiling shamefacedly. That means he doesn't find it very sensible. It is nonsense. But again he is telling, no harm trying though, I suppose. So he is not very sure whether to wish for or not. He holds up the paw as Herbert taps a drum roll on the table with his hands. So the son is sitting on the table and then playing the drum on the table with his hands. Mr. White loudly, I wish for 200 pounds. So he is taking the monkey's paw in his right hand and then wishing for 200 pounds. Herbert finishes with a dramatic flourish. That means he is completing that drum on the table, playing the drum with his hand, of course. Mr. White cries out, shuddering, and drops the paw. So suddenly he was having that monkey's paw in his hand and he is shaking in fear, and he is crying and then dropping that monkey's paw on the ground. His wife and son run toward him, so they don't know what happened. Mr. White, it moved when I wished, it twisted in my hand like a snake. So when he was wishing, holding that monkey's paw in his hand, he felt it was moving like a snake. That's the way he got scared. But well, I don't see the money and I bet I never will. So he is expressing his doubt that it did not work because the money has not come, the money that he wished for. So he picks up the paw and puts it on the table. Mrs. White to Mr. White anxiously, you must have imagined it. So Mrs. White cannot believe that the monkey's paw really moved in the hand. Mr. White shaking his head, I felt it move. Never mind though, I am all right. So Mr. White is very sure that the monkey's paw really had a movement inside his hand. So they sit down by the fire. A depressing silence settles over them. Depressing means very sad. Vishada Mugada, that's the meaning of depressing silence. The howling of the wind grows louder. So outside you can hear the sound of the wind. A door bangs, startling them all. So suddenly they hear a door banging, which really shocks everybody. They are shocked to hear that sound. Mrs. White, I don't know why we listen to that nonsense. How could wishes be granted in real life? And if they could, how could 200 pounds hurt you anyway? So first she is expressing her doubt that it was all nonsense. We should not have believed what Morris told about it and all that. And then she is again telling that there is no harm if he could get money like that by wishing. So if it works, well and good. That's the position Mrs. White is taking. That means she doesn't have complete trust in that, or she doesn't believe that it has magical power. Herbert, it could drop on his head from the sky. So again he is also making fun of it. He is telling that maybe that money could drop from the sky like that on the father's head. Mr. White, Morris said that things happen so naturally that you might think it was a coincidence. So Mr. Morris had told him that things will happen almost like natural, and we will think it is a coincidence. Coincidence means യാദൃശ്ചികമായി സംഭവിക്കുന്നു. Mrs. White, well, I have had enough of magic and fate and monkey's paws for one night. It is time for bed. So Mrs. White is in no mood to stay for long, and she's feeling sleepy maybe, so she's telling everybody to go to bed. So that's the end of the first part. In the next class we will see the ending part. So till then, it is goodbye. Thank you.